So today's going to be kind of fun. When we first started this series, and Pastor Steve talked about what it was we were going to be going through and tying it back to the Bible, I actually looked around the room and the various people sitting in it, and knowing many of you and what you do for work and whatnot, I kind of thought to myself, how cool would it be to have members of our own congregation stand up and tell what they do and how they're able to incorporate Christ into their work and how their work really matters. So it turns out Pastor Steve was thinking the same thing, and lo and behold, about a week later I got an email that asked me if I'd be willing to stand up and tell everybody. So today's going to be fun. We have 4 people that are going to share how their work matters. We have Cindy Quist, we have Jed Moseman, Doug Touhey, and myself. And during our talks, we're going to be incorporating 4 questions. They may be really easily recognizable, or they might just be kind of tied into the overall presentations. Those questions are, the first one is, how does your work contribute to the good of others? The next one is, what talents do you use most in your work? The third is, what brings you the greatest satisfaction to your work? And the last is, how do you try to represent the presence of Christ in your work? So look for those in these presentations, and with that, I'll turn it over to Cindy.
For those of you who don't know me, my name is Cindy Quist, and I am a 6th grade teacher. I teach ELA, which is going to be a little reading and writing. And a lot of times Derek and I don't drive together, but when we pull up into the parking lot and we reach that door, sometimes I feel like we kind of bend over, we put on our running shoes, lacing them tight, because as soon as that door opens, we feel like we're on this race. We're trying to make sure that they know how to use text evidence, that they know how to make inferences, that they know how to write a paragraph, and all of this is done within this tight time frame. We have bells, we are told when we can use the bathroom, we're told when to go to lunch. So it just kind of feels like this race. And sometimes it's just really hard to stop, tell ourselves to slow down, to breathe and remember what's important. And that would be the kids, and not just their education, but it's kind of their overall well-being. So I've been at the same building for 23 years, teaching 6th grade, and I have definitely noticed that over the years, things have gotten a little bit harder, more demands, tougher kids, tougher classes. And one thing has not changed, and that's that relationships are really important. Relationships come first. Some of my top strengths that I have would be organization and caring, and I think the caring allows me to bring in the presence of Christ into my job. Being that I work in a public school, it's not the talk, it's going to be more of the walk that those kids are going to be able to see. Some ways that I use this caring would be just kind of in general in the hallways, when I approach kids, when there are behaviors that I'm dealing with. I usually ask them what their name is. Some kids are, right away give you their name. Some get defensive right away. But normally, once they give me their name, then I stick my hand out and I just introduce myself first. And I just say, my name's Mrs. Quist. My room's right down there. I teach ELA. How are you today? And then I say, hey, here's the deal. And then tell them what I, need to see from them in the hallway. But just trying to make that quick connection first. Another connecting thing that's been a benefit with Derek being in the building now is we share some kids, but he has some different kids than I have. And so if we are side by side in the hallway, he'll say, hey, have you met Eddie? And then he'll introduce me to Eddie and tell me what a great kid he is, and vice versa. And those kids are starting to be able to feel like, they're connecting with other people than the teachers that they have. Usually I start my year out with having the kids write a Dear Mrs. Quist letter, where they get an opportunity to tell me a little bit about their family dynamics, what they like, what they dislike, what's important to them, what they feel they need during the year. And then I would take these letters home on one sheet of paper, so it was just at a glance. I would try and write down as much information on one skinny little line per kid, so that I had just at a glance some information about each kid. And And then my goal was each day I would pick a kid and I would look at that line and find something that I'd be able to ask them about as they walked in the room. Just letting them know that they are not just another kid in the class. So I might ask Cleo how her cat Chloe is that day, or I might ask Joe if he beat his high score in a particular video game that he loves. But just trying to make that connection with kids to build that relationship. So we do have some tough classes sometimes. So picture a really good game of whack-a-mole. The mole pops up, you whack it down, another mole pops up, you whack that one down. And sometimes in this race that we're running, we feel like we're playing this really good game of whack-a-mole. And so sometimes running a tight ship to be able to manage that good game of whack-a-mole it's kind of hard to build those relationships when you have to run that tight ship. So you really have to be intentional on when and how you can form that relationship or make that connection. So I do believe that students will learn best from people that they know care about them. So making sure that we have a quality relationship is got to be the key to my focus of my job. And so with Pastor Steve's Your Work Matters series that he's been doing, it has allowed me to kind of be inspired with ideas. He also did a series called Pulse, Checking Your Pulse, a while back, and we had these little cards, and there were these little sentence starters or questions on them. And the minute I read through those questions, I immediately thought, this is going to be perfect, the perfect ticket in the door tomorrow for kids. So I got to school the next day. I had to revise a little question because I didn't feel I could put, what's one thing that you need to pray about. So I changed it and said, what's one worry that you might have this week? And I was really impressed at the information I was getting back from the kids on those notes. So I just create every Monday, I create a little pulse check card. The kids grab them on the way in. They know they're the ticket out the door, so they have to turn one in. Sometimes they're great, and some I'm still working on, like this sample from Ethan. Write one reason you like school. I don't. Write one highlight from your weekend. Nothing. Write one low light from your weekend. Nothing. Write one thing you are connected or you're concerned about this weekend. Nothing. And then what's one goal you have, and how can I help you with that? Nothing. So there are some that I am hoping at some point in time, he might have something that I'm going to be able to use to be able to really connect with him. When I get these, I like the IDKs too. IDK, through the whole sheet. When I get these, I do make a point, stop over the next day with the sheet, and just let them know why I want them to fill it in. Just trying to get to know you better. It's just my way of, trying to learn something about you. We're about 2 months in on this kiddo, and I'm still getting those. So I've got 4 more months to be able to try and get somewhere with that. But I've seen some really great connections and have built some relationships with some kids through these pulse sheets. I have a kiddo named Kelvin. And I didn't even know his mom was pregnant. And so when he wrote on his sheet that he was really excited to meet his baby brother, I was able to talk with him the next day when he came in the door and ask him, did you get to meet your baby brother? And he said, no, not yet, but I have a picture of him, and can I see that picture? And so then it seems like every week he kind of walks by and he's like, I didn't get to see my brother this weekend, or I did get to see my brother, so we kind of have that starting point connection. Another girl wrote, most of her answers one day were about being hungry. And, we do have a large reduced lunch group of kids, and so it kind of sent a little red flag. I went to the computer, looked up to see what class she was in next, because she had already left my room. Saw that she was just right next door, was able to go to my little cupboard, grabbed a couple little snacks out of there, went over to the classroom, asked the teacher if I could see her for a minute, pulled her out, and I'm like, are you hungry today? And she said, yeah. And I said, well, here, which one do you want? You want one of these? And one. I said, take the other one with you, tuck it in your pocket for later. Let us know if you come and you don't have a chance to eat breakfast. We have breakfast downstairs. And then I was able to follow up too and find out if this is a family that needs help as well. So I feel like the pulse sheets have really allowed me to connect with kids, especially the quiet kids, the kids that don't talk much, the kids that don't share much. They just come in, they do their job. And while I'm, doing the whack-a-mole, I'm not getting a chance to really get to know those kiddos. So I feel like it gives me a chance to make connections with those kids. I have to share this one. I have one student named Jaden. She's a great kid. She just is always doing her job. And I was looking at the sheets, and the first sheet that I had made, it said, write 2 ways that you plan to show kindness this week. And she wrote, I don't plan kindness. And so I'm reading through it, and my heart kind of sank, because I'm like, what? This is not her? What? And then I got to the next line, and it said, I just do it. And it was like one of those melting heart moments where I was like, we really do have great kids in this building. This is why I'm here. It was something then that I felt like I needed to follow through. Sometimes we focus so much on calling and needing support with parents, but this time I was able to call and say, hey, I am so impressed with your kid. And I was able just to give some feedback to a parent who already knew she had an awesome kid, but it's still nice to be able to hear it. So just to kind of wrap things up, years ago we had a guest speaker that talked about, his message was, what was in your hand? When you leave, what's in your hand that you can use? And his was a golf club. And that's how he was connecting with people. And so I didn't have a single question about what was in my hand after that sermon. I knew that it was my classroom. It is the building, it's the hallways, it's right there, it's available for me to be able to make those connections with kids and walk the walk. Since I can't in a public school necessarily talk the talk, I can walk the walk and I can show them what it's like to be kind and to be tolerant and to be patient with others. I do think that if I can't first connect with my students' hearts, there's no way I'm going to be able to connect with their minds. So, thank you. Jed is coming up next.
Well, good morning. Thanks for having me here at Prayer Career Day. Appreciate that. Since Steve asked me to speak, I've been thinking for the last couple weeks about how do I make this not sound like middle school career day? And I had all these flashbacks, like an awful episode I saw Full House when I was younger, of like Joey and Jesse having to go and talk to Michelle's class or something like that. I was like, oh my gosh. And then I'm a middle school teacher as well. It's like Cindy. So I'm like, it's going to sound like middle school. I'm sorry. So I teach 6th grade math at Anoka Middle School. And for those of you that are already questioning my sanity for doing that, on top of that job, I also am an assistant basketball coach at Bethel University. And thank you. All right. So every day when I leave school at 3 o'clock, I hustle my rear end down to Bethel and spend another 3 or 4 hours down there working with 20-year-old guys and coaching with them. And I think that both of those jobs obviously lend themselves to relationship building, like Cindy's talking about. And they're so very different in that when I'm in the public school situation, I'm discouraged from sharing my faith. And kind of like Cindy was talking about, you have to find ways to make it about who you are now and how they experience you differently than they might experience another teacher or a parent or whatever it might be. And when I'm at Bethel, it's expected that I'm very out about my faith and I'm mentoring the guys that I'm working with and so forth. So I want to share just a couple of stories of different students and different players that I've worked with, and how I think God has used me in those situations to help them grow. Because I really feel that that's why I'm here. That's why I am in those positions, is to help the people I work with grow and grow closer to God, hopefully, as well. So, first student came into my class a couple years ago, 6th grade girl, and you kind of get a vibe early on in the year about what this kid is like. And this kid walked in, and there was drama. Just 6th grade girls can do drama like no one else, but this was drama on top of drama. She walked this is going to be a long year. And not only did I have her for, at that time I was teaching language arts like Cindy did, so I had her for 2 hours a day in language arts, and then I also taught a creative writing elective, and she was in my creative writing class. So I had this girl for 3 hours a day. And she was into it with people in the class, she was into it about stuff at home, and every day it was something when she walked in the door. And I decided, I gotta make sure that this girl knows that she's loved. So every day I greeted her with a smile. I try to do that with all my students. I stand at the door, I say, good morning, so-and-so. And regardless of what had happened the day before, every day when she walked in, thank you. Every day when she walked in, I just greeted her with a smile. I said, good morning, how you doing today? And for the first probably month and a half of the season, she went, and just walked by. Or month and a half of the school year. And then after a month and a half, she'd stop and say, good morning. I thought, okay, maybe we're making a little progress here. And I started, I mean, not only was there drama around her, but she wasn't a very good student either. She wasn't doing her work. If she did try work, it wasn't a very good quality. And so I was trying to help her with that as well, in terms of her writing and so forth. And we'd get to creative writing, and she'd just say, I don't have anything to write about. And because I'd give them assignments. And finally I decided, I took her on the hallway and I said, what would you like to write about? She said, I don't know. I said, well, why don't you just write about what's going on? What do you mean? I said, tell me what's going on in your life. And so she started writing about what was going on in her life. Heartbreaking. And again, every day I just felt I need her to see what unconditional love looks like. She became one of my favorite kids during the course of that year. And we found out things about why she wasn't doing very well. Number one, she couldn't see. Her family had done nothing to check her eyesight. She couldn't see from where she was most of the time. So I spent most of the year working with our counseling staff and so forth, trying to get her glasses so she could see when she came to class. And I'll move on from her story, but one of the most proud days I've ever had as a teacher. She came back when she was in 7th grade. She came to conferences or open house something, and we have 2 campuses at our school, so we have a 6th grade campus and then a 7th and 8th grade campus. I really didn't think this was going to happen to me today, I'm sorry. It's in the middle of the season, I don't get a lot of sleep. I don't use that as an excuse too, but she came back on a night where she shouldn't have been in our building. It wasn't that she couldn't be there, but she should have been at her building. She came back to see me because she wanted to show me her glasses. Yes. And it was cool. It was very cool. But another kid, this is one of my basketball players. So one of the really cool things I get to do with my job at Bethel is I run our basketball camps in the summer. And very similar to what Rob does and then some other people do with Focus on the Goal. We get to do it for a solid week, and it's an overnight camp. So we get about 150 kids in for each week. We use our players as the counselors and so forth. So we've got a staff of about 25 people every week that comes in. And while they're there, it's a Christian camp, so they get a chance to hear the message of God 3 times a day. We have a campus pastor that does a camp pastor that does 2 of the messages. But then for the 3rd message, I asked some of our players if they'd be willing to step up and share. And it's one of those things where it caused me to step out in faith as well, because I don't always know who's going to be willing to do it. And so we meet on Sunday night, camp starts Monday morning, and every year I throw it out there and just say, hey guys, we need 2 guys that are willing to step up and speak. And somewhere out there, God's putting on one of your hearts to do this. And you may think you don't have anything to share, but if God tells you that you should do this, somebody needs to hear your message. And then you just kind of wait, and you hope, and you pray. And a couple years ago, one of our players, who was only going to be a sophomore at this time, he was a really shy, quiet kid. He's about 6'8", and this is he's a nice kid, but he's very introverted. And about Monday night, he comes up and says, Coach Moseman. I said, yeah, what's going on? He says, I think I'm supposed to share. I said, really? He said, yeah. I said, well, let's talk about that. So we sat down and talked a little bit, and I asked about a little bit what his story was. Well, I didn't know that when we'd been recruiting him to come to Bethel, his mom had been struggling with cancer. And so he had some things where he'd been through some tough stuff, and he felt like, I just feel like God has kind of brought my family through that. She's doing great now. He said, I feel like I need to share. I said, great. In my heart, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this super quiet, super shy kid is going to get up in front of 150 middle schoolers and have to share about his faith. This may not go well. And it was amazing. Was he a super polished speaker? No. Did he speak from the heart? Yes. Were kids affected by what he said? And what was really cool was to see this kid that had told me when he said it, this is not me. He goes, I don't do things like this. I don't share like this. He said, but I'm going to try it. The next year, he volunteered to be a Bible study leader in the dorms at Bethel. And he's done that for the last 3 years now. And he's doing amazing things with these freshman guys that come in and are unsure about how to be in college and so forth. And he just does it by being who he is. And his openness in the midst of an opportunity that we were able to provide at our camp for him to step out into faith a little bit has kind of launched him into this ministry life of his, which I think has been awesome. Third student I want to talk about is a little bit harder. I may or may not cry on this one, I'm not sure. No promises. This is a student. I used to be the girls' basketball coach at Anoka High School. And so, you know, teenage girls again, and I'll just leave it at that. So, it happened to be that this girl lived right down the street from where Holly and I lived at the time. Holly and I had been married for about 5 years. We had both kids, and they were very small. Parker was like a 1 or 2 year old, and Holly was 4 or 5, somewhere in there. And she had a rough home life. Parents were split. Mom wasn't home a lot. Didn't treat her very well when she was. But she was on my basketball team. And so we would talk about how things were going, and we kind of tried to provide a safe space for her. And there were times that she would just show up at her front door, because honestly, she lived 5 houses down from us. And it'd be a Thursday night at 8:30, and all of a sudden there'd be a knock on the door, and there she would be. Come on in. And she'd sit, she'd play with the kids for a little bit, whatever. We'd give her something to eat, and then she'd go home. And we felt like we were really making some strides with her. And that she was starting to feel some of that unconditional love that we want to make sure that the people around us, when we can't be explicit about sharing it, that they feel. And she ended up graduating, had a decent career as a player and so forth. Didn't really have a direction where she was going to go. And the unfortunate part is the relationship kind of got severed a little bit as she moved away, because she had a little sister who, for whatever reason, Mom got mad at me as the coach for not playing her little sister enough. And really did some things that kind of were damaging to myself and to our family, and then certainly was very explicit to the daughter about, don't talk to Coach Moseman anymore. And I don't share that to be a downer. I share that because I think a lot of us are in situations where we're trying to be that light. We're trying to be out there and have people just see that there's something different about how we live and different about how we treat people. And sometimes it goes great, like my first story, and sometimes it doesn't. And I think what's hard is we don't know where that influence ends. We want to see immediate results, and when we don't get them, it's hurtful. And I feel like, why? Why did I invest? Why did I do it? And I wish I could say, we ran into her 10 years later, and she was living this great life, and I don't know where she is. It's been 15 years since we've seen her. I don't know. We moved away from the neighborhood. But I'd like to think that, at least for those couple of years, she had a safe place. She knew she was cared about. And then maybe that mattered. Don't know why. I want to close with a verse, and then somebody else can get up here and cry. But the verse is from 1 Peter 5:2. And obviously as a teacher and coach, I get a new flock every year. At school I get 150 of them every year. At team I get about 25 or 30 of them. Some of those are carryovers from year to year. But 1 Peter 5:2 says this, says, care for the flock that God has entrusted to you. Watch over willingly, not grudgingly. Not for what you will get out of it, but because you are eager to serve God. Every one of us has a flock. It's the people you work with, it's the people you serve in your job, whatever it might be. Be eager to serve God, to watch over them willingly. Thank you. What comes with props? Wow. Career Day's getting better and better every day.
Thank you. Morning, guys. My name is Touhey. I work for Three Rivers Park District. Forestry degree back in the 80s, and then started with the Park District in 1987 as a temporary employee, and then I worked my way up the ladder, and my current position is Forestry Operations Specialist. And I'm going to kind of give you just a little snapshot of what the year entails for me, and then we're going to do a couple little things at the end here. So we'll start in spring. So spring is our heavy planting time of the year. We go into a lot of old fields from ag. When the Park District acquired properties, they purchased big chunks of land. And so part of my job has been to reforest some of those, with the great crew of people doing that, helping with that. So spring is our heavy forestry or planting season. We do large bare trees and shrubs, about 8,000 of those per year. We plant about 40-some thousand. These are all native plants to Hennepin County for the most part. About 45,000 seedlings, small trees. And we have a big stalker tree spade. It's got 86 diameter ball that it can pull. And we plant large trees out in some of the Park District areas. Some of the active use areas, picnic grounds, campgrounds, things like that. We can make a quick impact that way with that. So that's a really heavy spring season. So I don't get to do much turkey hunting or anything like that. So pretty busy. So then we go into summer. Summer's our maintenance season. So we're going to be mulching some of our plants with wood chips, whatever we can kind of come up with. And we just maintain some of the trees, working in the nursery more, getting things trimmed up and things like that. So that's kind of our maintenance. We'll get into invasive species, some like buckthorn work. We'll be doing that during that summer period as well. Some site prep, some future planting sites. That's our kind of our summer, and then fall we'll do another kind of round of planting, not quite as much. We'll get into some disease management on some of the tree species that we work with. And then we roll into our winter season, and our winter season is where I probably spend most of my time, and we do tree work. And that's what's in this box here. So what I'm going to do is kind of show you guys, just kind of give you a demo of what we do. So we trim, we use certain lifts we can use. We've got a bucket truck we can use, and then mostly we trim rope and saddle. Okay. Has anybody done any mountaineering or any rock climbing? Anybody worked with any kind of devices like that? A few of you guys have. This guy for sure has. So a few guys have some of that. I'm going to kind of show you what we do as arborists up in the trees, and kind of go from there with that. Okay, so I'm going to put this down. I'm going to gear up here and show you some of this stuff. Okay, that's great. That's great. So as I'm putting this on here, so we got some different. This is called a saddle. Okay. This is what I'm going to put on. Okay, right where? For cutting devices here, is my climbing line here. Okay. And inside this, I'm not going to pull this all apart. It's a real fine line. It's really strong, and this is what I use, a little throw bag. Let's see. Okay, it's a small little weighted bag, and you tie it on there, and then you throw that up into the branch, and you isolate that, and then you pull up your climb line. Okay, you bring up your climb line. So this end will go all the way through that branch, comes back down to you, and then you tie that into your saddle. Okay, so that's kind of how that goes. So you'll kind of get a better idea when I put this on. Now, if I fall over, don't laugh, because you have to step through all of these little straps and everything here, so it's a little bit tricky. And that's my chainsaw lanyard strap on the back. So there's a lot of business going on here right now. Okay. So up till now, we've had a pretty nice. We had a early climb season going on, and we've been out in some pretty nice weather. And productivity, obviously, in that nice weather goes way up. This next week, not so much. Start getting into these single-digit temps and that, you're trying to keep your hands. Obviously, we got all these devices and they're metal, so you got to manipulate those. You have to handle those. And if you're not good at throwing up into the tree, okay, it can take a long time to get up in there, and you're standing there and you're freezing. Okay, so all these devices. This is called the bridge right here. It's a rope bridge. Okay, 5,000-pound brake strength or more. Everything that we have this life support is that dimension. So carabiners, 5,000 plus. Snaps, 5,000 plus. Leg straps, everything here that's supporting me is that. Okay, so I have my rope. So this is what attaches. This isn't exactly right, but just for time's sake. This is a friction hitch, okay? And this is what I work off of. Pull down on the top of the knot, it breaks it loose. And I got devices to pull it back up, okay? I'm not rigged up quite right on it yet. But anyways, I can manipulate that. That's how I go up and down the tree. Okay, and then I've got another little device here. This is called the foot ascender. This attaches to my foot. The rope goes through this, and it's got these little teeth on there. And those teeth, this is called a rope grab device, and there's different types of these. So this one goes on my foot, and I use that to go up into the tree. So I step on that, and it bites on those little teeth. Doesn't really damage the rope. And a lot of the arborist equipment has been stolen from the mountaineering people. We kind of took a lot of their devices and changed them to make them work better for arborists. Okay, so that's how I can access up into the tree, overcome gravity. That's the hardest part. Once I'm up in there, I'm using this rope, and then I also have my lanyard. And this lanyard, when I'm doing any cutting, it doesn't matter whether it's a handsaw or a chainsaw, I have 2 points of attachment. Okay, I'm attached in here around the tree, and I'm also attached in with my main climb line. Okay, because these silk pieces are made in Japan, they are wicked sharp. Okay, so if I and I'm under heavy load, if I hit this climb line by accident, okay, and I don't have another attachment point, where am I going? I'm going to the ground. Okay, so the same thing holds true with all these connections. And there's been arborists that have missed connections because they've probably done a million of these connections over their career. Those are the ones that mostly get in trouble. Okay, if you miss one connection, so not always. I've had times when I've missed it myself. But if you miss a connection, there's no backup unless you have your other system in. Okay, if you have this climb line in, which you have to have both connected when we cut it. Okay, transferring or whatever. Not a good thing. Okay, it's not good at all. Let's see. So it's pretty physical job. It's pretty dangerous work. It kind of rolls with law enforcement, commercial fishing, us, and there's probably a couple others, and we all kind of trade back and forth as the most hazardous occupation. Ours actually, what we do fits into logging. So logging covers a big part of it. But we're right up in that top three, and we kind of dance between them. A lot of it is the gear is getting lighter and lighter. The old bridges here were really robust nylon. They were probably that wide. Okay, and we streamlined everything. So now you got a piece of rope here. And some of the top arborists that are in the industry, they don't really like the way that we're going. Okay, it just means really you have to be more diligent. Every day you check these. These are automatic locking, double locking carabiners. Yeah. So you should test them every day. You test them to make sure they're functioning correctly. This is your lifeline. Okay, inspect your gear. Maybe you nicked your rope and didn't realize it. So when you're pulling this rope or putting it back in or taking it out, you're looking at it, you're inspecting it. It's your life. Nobody can this is my gear. I don't let anybody else use my gear. I don't know what they did to these devices. Did they take a fall? Did they hit the end of this? Did they do an impact to one of my devices? Okay, so we all have our own gear on that. So, kind of in a nutshell, that's what I do in the winter months, and we do quite a bit of that. I don't do as much. I've gotten older, but I've got a really good crew right now. I've got some youngsters, and they produce. They put out a lot of good work. Some of that work is to minimize some of the risk to park users. So we've got a lot of dead trees. We have some dead trees, like broken branches, dead branches that we have to maintain and get them down so they don't drop on people in our campgrounds and active use areas. So that's one of our big deals there. Take a look here. A little cheat sheet here. Okay. So, how do I contribute to the good of others? So minimizing risk to them, actually, enhancing our environment through our plantings and that. What are some of the talents that I use? So, as working as an arborist, leading, training, and mentoring crew members, planning and implementing new reforestation sites. Satisfaction for me is watching these 30-year-old old planting sites, watching them mature. We got red oaks right now that I planted 30 years ago, 30 years ago that are 60 foot high. So to go back, if I need an upper, I just go find those old sites and I go in there and I go, wow, this is pretty cool stuff. So I'm pretty fortunate enough to have that. Let's see, and then try to be a positive role model for my coworkers. Just having empathy, having patience with them, and just try and support what they're going through in their lives, and try and figure out. It's really hard because personalities can be so different, right? So how do you handle this person? How do you handle this person? You have to handle them differently because they all respond differently in that. So that's one of the bigger challenges that I have, I guess, with that. All right? How do we do? Okay. Nice job, guys. Thank you.
So apparently we're not standing up in a tree with a chainsaw in one hand and holding the branch in the other one, cutting off a limb. That's not the right way to do that.
The chainsaw in one hand, and you're right, it's cutting the branch with the other. Well, no. You have two hands, and one hand's on the back of the handle, and the other hand's on the front of the handle.
Yeah.
That's how we roll.
Well, what's the worst that's going to happen, right?